Again, you have something a little bit different for this Sunday upload. In this section, Dr. David Hamilton talks about the fascinating research that was done with patients with Parkinson's and how the placebo effect really helped them. What's very fascinating about this particular section is how they use pharmaceutical drugs to help kickstart that placebo effect. At the end of the video, you'll see testimonials from people that were at this wonderful day's event, plus as well Andy's thoughts and feelings on Dr. David Hamilton. Enjoy.
So this is some real results from a placebo-controlled dose reduction study done at the University of Turin School of Medicine by a professor called Fabrizio Benedetti for patients with Parkinson's disease. And on day one, they gave some people a drug and some people a placebo, and they found the placebo had no effect. And they were measuring things like muscle tremors, muscle rigidity, so muscle rigidity, tremors, but they went further. Benedetti has the most advanced placebo study lab in the world, so what they actually did is they measured the activation of individual neurons in the brain, the firing of individual neurons in the brain. They wanted to be really clear on what exactly they're doing, demonstrate how powerful an effect this is. So on day one, they found to get that clinical effect of a reduction in tremors, a reduction in muscle rigidity, and firing of individual neurons in a region that's usually deficient in dopamine in Parkinson's patients, you needed 100% drug, no placebo. Placebo didn't work at all. But after you've given the drug for a day, and now the person has had the experience of when I get this drug, you know, an injection, for example, this happens. When I get this drug, this happens, i.e. tremors reduce, muscle rigidity reduces, and obviously they don't know the brain, the neurons are firing in the brain, but they are. So because of that experience, that day of experience, they found that to get the same degree of reduction in tremors and the same degree in reduction in muscle rigidity and the same degree of neurons firing, you could swap the drug for placebo to an extent. You could reduce the drug to 75% and lift the placebo to 25%. But by day three, now they've had 3 days, now they've had an extra day of experience, of having the experience of when I get this drug, I get a reduction in tremors and a reduction in rigidity of my muscles, and there's also neurons firing in the brain in that region usually deficient of dopamine. So because of that increased experience, you find that to get the same clinical result, the same reduction in tremors, etc., you can get away with only using 50% of the drug and replacing it with 50% placebo. I think you can see what's coming. By day 4, because they've had an extra now day of experience built up of when I take this drug, this happens, i.e. I can move better and there's less rigidity, then what happens is you can get away with just using 25% drug and 75% placebo. By the next day, after another day of experience, you don't need any drug at all. So you can get the same clinical effect of reduction in tremors, reduction in rigidity, the same degree of clinical result, reduction in tremors, reduction in rigidity, and the same degree of activation of individual neurons in the brain using nothing other than a saltwater injection.
Would that carry on forever?
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that extraordinary? So it's an active line of research, very new, called placebo-controlled dose reduction. It's actively being used in a couple of different environments, but in particular, scientists are looking at organ transplant patients, and what they're doing for PCDR is suppressing the immune system, but rather than using immunosuppressant drugs, they're replacing them after 4 or 5 days with placebo. And the overall idea with that is hopefully you might not get the same side effects. So what you're getting is a targeted immune suppression rather than a body-wide. So that's what researchers are looking at. But isn't it amazing how powerful your mind is? You have an extra day of experience and an extra day of when I do this, this happens. I.e. when Dr. Pavlov comes and he brings the food and rings the bell, and the dog starts to think there's a bell ringing here and there's food, and the dog salivates. And each day you do that, it gets stronger. It's called conditioning. So every day you do that, it gets your belief, whether conscious or subconscious, gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And in PCDR, usually you find it's 4 or 5 days. Same thing with morphine. Scientists have replaced morphine entirely in patients who have had a an operation and they're on a morphine drip. By 4 days, studies, Benedetti's group have been able to completely reduce morphine to 0 and replace it entirely with salt water. Isn't that incredible?
Imagine, if you will, there's a little lad playing in a park with his worn-out leather football, and Pele comes along and says, "Do you want to kick around?" Imagine perhaps a little girl sat there playing the piano, and suddenly Mozart comes along and says, "Hey, do you want me to show you how to do that properly?" Imagine, if you will, an ex-policeman stood in front of his all-time hero trying to do some speaking when he's going to follow him. Right, okay. I am blessed to be here, genuinely blessed, and I absolutely count my chickens, and I absolutely mean it. You're going to have an awesome afternoon, because as much as we've worked together a couple of times now, he's going to hate me for saying this, but oh my God, I hold this man in so much awe. You've got an afternoon coming.
Great to see David again. I've seen him a few times, and again, he's just he makes something so complex, like, or, you know, what is it, organic chemist?
Yeah.
You know, somebody said that to me, I'd run a mile, but he made it so simple and so easy to understand. And having an autoimmune disease myself, it's just real practical tips on what I can do to help really turn that around.
He put it into layman's terms as well, didn't
Yeah.
he? And for people like myself who aren't sciencey, he made it simple.
And fun.
And fun.
And he's funny.
And I loved his dance.
I love his dance.
His dancing was great. And I really liked his meditation as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So all in all, an amazing day and thoroughly enjoyed
Wonderful
it.
day.
I was really excited to hear David speak. This is the second time I've heard him speak, and he is incredible. He didn't disappoint. He just brings something new every time. The visualization with David is so powerful. You really feel that you are in the moment and you're visualizing these techniques. So you actually come away with something that's practical as well as informative. So yeah, a brilliant talk.
For me, David was very good. As an engineer, I like a bit about the science. I want to understand how things work. And that's sort of given me those links that say, you know, oh, this is how this works, these are the tools and techniques, and this is the difference they can make. And that link for somebody with a logical type mind was really useful for me. And again, more tools, techniques to use to help, and, you know, I can see so many people that I could sort of share with as well.